let's go ahead and jump into the demo. So I've got a checklist here. And in that checklist, you're going to notice that I have 6 pieces here, 6 items on my checklist. We can go to 7, 8, 9. It just depends how much time we have. But the way that we're going to approach it is we're going to take the first 4. We're going to appease the river police by fixing 4 common mistakes that they call out on the map. And the 5 and 6, or 7 and 8, if you users have ideas, we're going to intentionally enrage and defy the river police by creating unnatural rivers. So if you have some ideas for unnatural rivers, let me know in the chat and we will make those. Okay, because I'm curious what kind of fantasy rivers ideas that you all have so that we can then apply them to this map. Let's go first on the checklist. Number 1, the split river fix. So if you notice here, number 1, there's a series of parts of this river that splits. Okay, and we want to fix that. All right, let's say that you want to appease the river gods, or not the river gods, but the river police. Let's say that you want to appease them, so you want to make sure that these rivers don't split and then go to the mouth. You can simply just remove some of these pieces because there are indeed tributaries. So you can go in and just kind of remove that piece. You can go in and add in more that kind of pop out this way. That's fine. But the thing is, they're probably not going to be doing this. All of these breaks right here. And it's okay if you want to have this effect. There could be maybe a spell took place or whatever, and it explains why there are all these splits and these breaks. Maybe there's a series of rocks. Maybe this is a floodplain where these lower elevations fill with water. You could come up with all kinds of reasons. The thing is that if you're going to come up with a fantasy river, it doesn't hurt to try to explain why it does that, because then it adds more to your lore. It makes the place more interesting. My general rule is that if you are going to add a fantasy map, my suggestion is that you should have lore. It should propel the story forward, the campaign forward. Because if it's just a crazy looking map or crazy looking river just for the sake of being crazy without any lore, players, it's going to stick out, but it won't have any meaning. So when you are adding fantasy rivers, just remember, add some lore, explain it with magic or whatever it might be. And this way you can kind of maybe not incur so much of the wrath of the river police, right? All right, let's go to number 2, straight river repair. If you have a river that's super straight, it's going to look more like a canal, more like it's human made, more like it's been dug by some species in that world. So it's not really helpful to have a perfectly straight line unless this was dug, and this would be many, many miles long, unless this was some straight canal that goes straight to this mountain range over here. So rivers aren't going to really look like that. So let's go back to our ad. I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up, and we'll correct this. So just like we said before, a lot of rivers start in the mountains, but they don't have to. So let's just do that. We'll go with our subtract mode, and we're going to start in the mountains. And to show that there's terrain, we're going to do curves like this. Now, I do want to mention something about making your river when you're doing the meanders, and it has to do with scale. If you want to show that it's at a really, really small scale, what you would end up doing is that these meanders would not be as obvious or quite defined. Instead, those meanders would look more something like this, because the further away that you're seeing the river, the less that you can see the giant curves. So if you were to zoom into the map, those curved meanders would be much larger. So this is a question that you have to ask yourself. Do you want to have rivers that are at this scale where they're doing that? Or if you want to have a little more artistic license and put in more obvious meanders. And that's a decision that you need to decide. I personally prefer a little bit larger scale when applying my rivers because I really want them to stick out, and those meanders make them look more interesting with those big sweeping curves. While conversely, these other ones like this at this smaller scale, they look a little weirder to me. So it's really a personal preference on which one you like better. You have to make that decision. And I'll answer any questions that are in the chat at the end of the stream, okay? All right, let's go over to coast-to-coast fixes. And there's a lot of fun things that you can do with this. I personally don't mind a coast-to-coast river. I think it always sounds really good, like with a wizard casts some continental spell that split these two parts to maybe stop a battle or an invasion. So where the army was coming and they wanted to cross or they wanted to go over, the wizard cast or wizards cast a great spell that kind of divided or created a great waterway there that stopped an invading army or whatever you want to do. But let's say that you want to appease the river gods or the river police and you want to make it to where maybe it's something more like a canal or a strait, and you can totally do that. We can go back and what we can do is widen it a little bit so it's not so much like a river. We can go in and widen it. That's a good start. In fact, why don't we just bring the brush size up? I think 7 looks good. We'll widen it. That's a good start to help distinguish it not as a river, but as a strait or a canal. And then we can also maybe add some smaller portions to it, like this one, like this. Add a little island here, like this. And then maybe we want to have it split over here like this. And then you can kind of, again, turn this river into more of a strait or a canal. And that little island there kind of helps to break that off, making it more interesting. Let's go with our next one. Right, if people have any ideas on what kind of fantasy rivers they want to make, let me know in that chat, okay? All right, let's go with number 4 in our checklist. That's going to be the elevation check. You'll notice that these rivers right here flow from one mountain to the next, which would not happen. So let's adjust and fix that, shall we? We'll go ahead into the add mode here and just go ahead and fill these in. There we go. Now, if you wanted your rivers to start in the mountains, you might want to just go back over to subtract mode, go to size 2, go to subtract. And if you wanted to do that, then you could have it come flowing down through here and then make its way to here. Same thing here. Maybe it flows down this way and then makes its way this way. Or this one right here where it goes down this way and then makes its way to this mouth right here. And you can always widen the mouth a little bit. And then you can also do river bifurcation or deltas by just creating some smaller streams. I used 1 stroke here. Maybe I want to create another delta right here like this. Maybe put another one that kind of goes right here. Another one that kind of goes like this. And I'm having them at various widths to make it look more natural looking. Remember, the nature likes diversity. So definitely make your rivers diverse in widths so to make it more interesting if you're at a large enough scale to allow yourself to do that. I've gotten comments from people who said, I can't get the subtract tool small enough to create my river. That's perfectly okay. When you're at that scale, what you should do instead is you should choose a line instead. And my recommendation is pick a color that's not too far off from here. I'm going to go ahead and use this right here and choose like a light color. That's going to be my color. And then I can go in my mountain here and just go like this. Let's go ahead and turn off that shadow real quick. Shadow. Let's also bring the size down. Let's go with 36 and see where that leads. And then you can just use a line like this to create your river if you prefer that, so that way you don't have to deal with the mask effects that are coming with using the subtract mode of the mask tool. It only goes to size 1. So when it's sometimes it's just not small enough. You need something smaller. The line tool will do that. So you can do a color or you can use a river stroke as well. We can select that same line and then go over to the stamp here, open this up, and then just choose river. Right there you have a river. And then I can choose this scale. And the one thing that you'll notice is that there are these kind of repeating elements right here. If you're using, what you can do is you can go over to your stroke options here and then go right here to nodes, and you can just select those nodes that have the overlap like this, just select those nodes, and then you'll be able to remove those sections. So let me just go back real quick. Go ahead and remove that, go back so you can see, now you can see it, and then I can change that scale to whatever I want it to be. And just remember, the smaller the scale goes, that it kind of gets a little blurrier. But again, you can do a line for like the very smallest scale, or you can use the river stroke. This is entirely up to you on which one you want to use. I personally like all of the options. Again, it just depends what the scale is that you're going for.